Hi, and welcome to Heart and Light Living. Today is episode 67, and the title is Love Beyond Roles, Authentic Intimacy in the Age of Aquarius. And I just want to welcome all of our listeners back. And here we are today, Heart and Light Living, where we clear what dims us so we can actually live brighter. We can love a little bit deeper. Most importantly, come home to ourselves. I feel like right now we're living in a time, y'all, of a massive, massive energetic reorganization. Old roles are kind of dissolving, as well as systems in front of our very eyes. I think that masculine and feminine identities are an evolving story. Men might be questioning who they are. Women might be redefining their power and questioning who they are. And I feel like intimacy is no longer necessarily about performance at all, but rather about presence. Are you showing up? Are you there? Are you in the game for you, first and foremost? If this is actually the age of Aquarius, I would imagine, y'all, that authenticity is no longer optional. It's actually a requirement for us as humans. So today we're going to have some fun with Elena Sophia Ruiz, and we're going to talk about sex. We're going to talk about love. We're going to talk about gender. We're going to talk about fluidity. And we're going to talk about how to build intimacy that actually feels in spiritual alignment, not socially scripted. So I just want to give y'all one question to keep in mind before we dive in with our beautiful guest, and just a gentle, but I would say kind of tender question. Where in your relationships are you performing a role instead of expressing your truth? I'm going to say that again, my friends. Where in your relationships are you performing a role instead of expressing your truth? And just let that sit. Because this episode might be an opportunity for us to actually unravel some of the scripts that have just been programmed into us that we might not even have awareness of until this now. So welcome, Elena. Hello there. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. And I am very inspired to be here with you today. I love your question. I absolutely love your question.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for my listeners out there, right? I've got one for you, my friend, because this is something that we start out with for everybody that comes on as a guest and blesses us with their presence. What I wanted to ask you is, what is making your heart feel most lit up and alive right now?
Wow. What an amazing question. Pardon me. What an amazing question. And just being here. But I don't say that just because it sounds right and it sounds okay. When I was a little girl, it was my dream to be in the radio having a conversation.
I love
So the first time that I hear myself in a podcast to my voice, I had so many tears. And I just remember, I don't want to cry, the 5-year-old. So when you ask me the question, I'm not just saying as a compliment to you, I'm saying this as a true statement that this is who I am. This is what my life purpose is. And I'm not just inspired, but honored to be here. So this is what might make my heart bump.
Wow. What a beautiful, authentic little kernel that's been inside of you, just waiting to blossom.
Yep.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. My friend, well, we are here to talk about some very interesting things. And the first place I want to go to with you is just the collapse of old gender scripts.
Mm-hmm.
Some very interesting things that are going on right now. And we're clearly at a time where traditional gender roles are really shifting. Some people might feel really liberated. Other people might feel a bit destabilized, right? From your perspective, both spiritually and psychologically, so both elements, what's actually happening out there, my friend?
Ooh, I love this question. I was just thinking about this yesterday. I wonder when I'm going to have this opportunity to talk about this. I did not know it was going to be today. It's funny and interesting. And I thought, am I ready to even talk about this with all the information that I want to share? So I definitely have my own opinion, and psychologically and spiritually, definitely it's two different monsters.
Yes.
First of all, the entire definition of human behavior, or how and why we do what we do, it goes back to the era when they were, cavemen, outside the caves, and the women inside, and the entire behavior of the masculine and the feminine go back to that. And for so many, 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 many years, it has not changed on how we behave, regardless of who is displaying the masculine and the feminine energy. That's energetic, or psychologically, I guess. We have two genders, and I understand there's too many questions here, because I am not specifically talking about sexuality at all. This is not about sexuality. This is about the gender that we chose to take, the role, as you were asking earlier, the role that we choose to take. And let's just go over really, really quick about the men were the hunter, and the we can say breadwinner, but meat winner, right? I guess, or dinosaur
winner,
whatever applies more. And the women were the ones taking care of the family, raising the family, doing the social part, and making the decisions. Women have been making decisions for many years, many, many years. And even though that we see those powerful men in previous generations making decisions in an office, a lot of the statement, behind a powerful man there's a powerful woman. I was just having this conversation yesterday with a young woman, and I hope Natasha, if she listens to this, I was explaining this. It's not because the man is powerful. It's because the woman is powerful and she's behind that man, but that doesn't take anything away from that man. He's still the man. He's still making those decisions. And I'm going to say, I don't want to be political here at all, but I'm just going to give an example of a couple the first one that came to my mind, and I don't really watch a lot of TV or social media or anything like that. This is why I'm using this couple, okay? There was Michelle Obama, right? Again, I don't want to make this political. It has nothing to do with that. But I remember she will take a lot of credit about who he was as president. She will, I believe that she was making those, developing those, writing those speeches. And regardless if we are in favor of him or against him, that's not relevant to me. What is relevant is who he became and who she was there. And she had such a power as a woman that on her own, she had her own stuff going on. But at the same time, even in the White House, she was not the main character. It was him. It was his job to make those decisions. But one does not disempower the other one. And and if you remember, what was her focus as a lady in the White House? It was not taking roles on offices or on money. Her role was, I believe, was about eating healthy, right?
Yeah.
So again, let's go back to the roles. And the ones who, even though the men brought the meat, the women were in charge of the food, right? Or providing the meal or making, nurturing our kids, our men. I perceive there is a very feminine job. I'm not going to say the woman job, but I'm going to say the feminine job. And by that, I mean whatever anybody perceive as being nurturing. And we start with breastfeeding our baby. Now, I'm going to say that's a woman role, right? So the nurturing our kids, the nurturement is nourishing, it starts with breastfeeding. And that will not ever be taken away from women, I think, right? I hope.
But it's a choice. But it's a choice as opposed to it being an assigned role, right? Like I feel like that's really like the big, like that's what you were talking about.
I'm talking about breast. We can provide the meal as a father, right? I have a very, very, very small, little, tiny godson that is definitely being nurtured by both parents, right? But the dad takes the bottle, the mom goes directly to the breastfeeding, right? Now, it doesn't mean the men are not able to do that. Actually, that's one, the lack of nourishing our families is what is creating breast cancer here in this country. And it's the perception, right? It's not the action, it's the perception of missing that. Now, the women were inside the cave and the men will pound in the outside to ask permission to come in. And as they continue to do that, the women will listen to the energy they had. And they will say, not yet. And they will have to stomp their feet and outside until the women knew that that was the energy of a hunting and killing and all of that was left behind. And then they will be welcome to come into the cave. Now, the women make decision. When babies are little, the women, the matriarch of the team or the group will decide who will be the next leader. And it was going to be a male, but he was the one who observed the kids playing with each other and observed which one of them will have more leadership. So again, the woman, will make those decisions on the leader of the community in that case, right? So that doesn't mean that we women cannot make decisions. And there are roles that we played and we take and we come and go. I want to go to the soulmate, right? When you have two individuals that are single woman and a single man, I'm just again, I'm not gonna make this generic because that's not my point. But let's say it's a man and a woman, and they've been single and they live by themselves. When they are in that situation, let's say the woman takes care of working and feeding herself, exercising and everything, and so does the man. When they join in marriage or, live together, they exchange roles. Now she's going to be the one in charge with the finances, or it's going to be him. And by finances, I mean like administration, not just bringing the money, if they both work. Or the social, there's one more that actually, talks about other friends. So those are roles. Those are feminine and masculine roles. However, sometimes it comes and goes. That is more like the psychological. So what is happening? What is happening now with all these roles? I'm actually a little scared about what's happening and what's going to happen to men. Like I have nephews. I have very young nephews, again, and my godson, right? So women are fighting for power, but women had power for many years before. It was within ourselves that we have to express that. And again, you can see, I can tell you so many women that are powerful, and we can have big statements by women in history that their job and their mission was to build leaders. Again, I'm not going to say names anymore because I don't want to be political, but as doing that, they did a great job. And their job was just to raise those kids to be leaders in the world. And she did. She has. So whatever we do, we can have a very androgynous personality. And by that, I mean the business side plus the nurturing side, plus, the physical side, plus the money, the intelligence. All of these things are more masculine and feminine. And within one individual, we can have both. But the job of protecting will always be the masculine role. And the job of nurturing, I'm going to say that because primarily it's going to be the female role. And it's a very feminine energy, the nurturing. A man can do it again, but it's a feminine energy or femininity, right? So as women are, I perceive to be a little bit, some women out of balance and, trying to demonstrate power when they have the power. We can only exteriorize something that we have an overflow. And if we have the power, it's going to radiate outside and it's going to open energetically, it's going to be seen by others. We don't need to fight for that. All we have to do is do a self reflection of intimacy. And through intimacy is when I see somebody and I see myself. Like when I see you, I see your eyes. We had conversations before about things that we have in common, but not just to the people that I like. I have been in a position where I see individuals that I should feel challenged. I look and I said, well, I know this individual is supposed to challenge me because of the situation. Could be legal, could be any other situation. And I look at the individual and I see, how can I see myself in this individual? And I'm happy to give an example if that's possible. I was in a situation when there was this individual who was missing his part of his arm from his elbow to and one of his hands. I believe was the right one. All the way, he only had as far as his elbow. And I remember looking at him, and he was not the only one. It was many individuals. And I was looking at each one and I thought, I'm going to have intimacy with these individuals. I'm going to see in them what I have, and I want to see me in them. And I went one by one. And when I got to him, I remember thinking, well, I don't think I'm missing anybody part, right? But what that really means to him is that he has, I'm going to say, a perceived disability. And I'm going to say perceived because the word disability is another podcast, right? A perceived disability or something that's stopping him or is not seen as a complete individual. And I thought, when and how I have felt like that. And I went back to when I came to the United States and I didn't speak the language and I was speech disabled. I couldn't speak English.
Mhm.
So at that moment, I have such a gratitude to see this individual and I recognize and see what was happening in his heart, having that when it's become a disability because I don't have the ability to express something. In his case, have the ability to grab something with a hand that is missing, right?
Yes.
The beautiful part of this is that many, many, many individuals have the two arms and even further, the two hands, but they're unable to see that they do. And they create disabilities in the mind, but not empowering each single part of their body, knowing the potential of they can do. And that's just one hand, because the mind can create anything and do anything, even when we don't have a hand. We don't need a hand. That a hand doesn't determine who we are.
That's right.
We determine who we are.
Yeah. That's right. That's absolutely right.
I was also thinking, do you want to add something on that, Michele?
No. I wanted to ask you, there is two things that I want to make sure that we get to today. And one of those things is that I wanted to talk about what masculine and feminine looks like in 2026.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's really because I feel like, emotional literacy, in men has been an evolving, topic. I think that nervous system safety overall in general
Mhm.
between both genders, right?
Correct.
I also think that there's been some really interesting conversation around boundaries as actually being erotic.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, and also strength without suppression, right? Like there's been a lot of redefining. And so you, as somebody who works with men on sex, on love, and intimacy, what is masculine in 2026 and what is feminine? And then we're going to talk about actual intimacy and get to sex in the age of Aquarius.
So it is very important to acknowledge that we make decisions individually and we make decisions as a group, right? And by
Yeah.
and definition of women, I mean I'm women, but I'm not making the decisions and the things that are happening. I don't get involved, and I try not to, behave in a
Mhm.
specific way, right? I make my decisions by myself and who I am, and that all I can do. Empowerment starts within.
Mhm.
Um, Men, there has been a perception that men loses his masculinity by becoming vulnerable because vulnerability is a girl or a woman thing, which I don't agree. As a matter of fact, in working with men, by the way, uh, not that I do anything to to create this, but seeing men tears has been one of the most beautiful things that I have seen in my life. Seeing men eyes crying, right? But I can tell you that recently I interviewed a man who is perceived to be very masculine, not just one, there more than one, very masculine, and they were very vulnerable. And this is, I have done that many times, but these are during an interview that is going to air. And I can tell you with certainty that one of them was not the first time, but I can tell you that he will not lose any masculinity of who he is because he was so certain to talk about that. So,
Mhm.
being vulnerable and emotional intelligent has nothing to do with being a woman or a man or feminine and masculine energy. The What has happened is that anything that goes, like the pendulum, right? Anything that goes too much in one end is going to bounce back in the other end. And as women are actually claiming a lot and fighting for the feminine, the equal rights and being feminine and being more. Okay, again, it's just so many subjects in one. Equal rights means being more masculine or being treated like men, but there's going to be so many things. I love when a man opens the door for me. I love it. And men tell me I'm not going to do that because the last time I did it, the girl told me, "What? You don't see that I have hands?" So I perceive that no matter what you want to, if you want or not to make a decision to get involved, we are involved already and we must do something. And you know who's going to pay the consequences? The next generation of men are going to fight against women, and it's not going to be pretty and it's not going to be fair because we have been this women. I have seen many women taking actions and destroying men in a way that is very public, in a way that is very unfair. And I'm not saying that I'm not in favor of anybody. Again, we had to make decisions one by one.
Mhm.
And even when we don't want, we might be, when somebody says women are doing this, do you think they're excluding me, even if I don't get involved? Absolutely not. So all we can do is try to bring that to a balanced place in which does not go to the other side of the pendulum because it will be back. As women right now are racing, it's going to come back where men is going to take over and then men are going to fight women. And I don't want that to happen for so many reasons. First, they're victimizing some men. It is
Mhm.
a fact. They're victimizing some men. And I don't appreciate that again because I love my men around me. I love my friends. I love my nephews. I love people who works with me and people that I interact. They are extraordinary and beautiful men. And they're not doing anything. But again, they're also going to get hurt by all these things. They're going hurt to the degree that they're taking the masculinity. They don't know how they can approach a woman anymore. And I'm definitely old fashioned, but or if something. But you know what, Michelle? When I was 22, when I was 21 years old, when I was 12, I started my own business of fashion design. When I was 21, I bought my first home. But I did not take anybody's masculinity by doing that. I empower younger people. So we can do so many things without hurting anybody or undermining anybody.
Yeah.
I understand, and I know that some women feel, because I also been in that situation. But I always tell people, yes, we have our...
There's a range of experience, and the level of victimization for being masculine or being feminine. The irony in it is that you're actually creating the same discomfort that you believe you're trying to alleviate, and you're creating more of it.
Thank you.
That's the real irony, because we all have feminine, we all have masculine in us.
Correct.
And I think that that's really what 2026 is about, is the range of spectrum, is like just no different than color. We know that there's blue, there's light blue, there's cobalt blue, there's even neon blue. Like, you can have range and perspective. And I feel like it's the irony again in opening up to a spectrum. Somehow we've narrowed certain definitions, and we've made masculinity toxic, or we've made femininity somehow weak. And I think that it's just a level of confusion that authentically within ourselves, we know there's something a little bit kind of funky about this. This doesn't resonate as truth.
The reality is that anyone who perceived to be too feminine or too masculine is going to be definitely, not in balance. Our perfection is to be androgynous, because I'm sure that you have very masculine things that you do, and it could be in the business that you do or how you make decisions. But I'm also certain that you do some feminine things, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that one takes away from the other, or that you just become a guy, or you become a dude with physically. You're not even, that's not happening. So you are who you are, and you will always be. And sometimes you have to jump in that role. I have been there. I have been not even a dad, probably. You have to be in jump role because it's necessary. And at that moment, nobody else is taking the job. In that moment.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that this is who we are. We define ourselves, and not be fighting. Basically, anyone that we fight, we are fighting ourselves, because it's within.
Yeah, it's within.
That we're fighting someone for disempowerness is really us who disempower. The true definition of being authentic, intimacy in ourselves, is looking and seeing where we are doing, where we see the other individual doing, and the accusations that we're making, where we see us. Everybody says, right, that you see the index finger when you accuse someone, and 3 fingers come back to you. So you are doing it in a way, right? So again, you just have the true empowerment is, anytime that we think about somebody doing something to us, is so disempowering, just to give so much power to someone, and the time and space that they have in our brains, in our minds, in our amygdala, I'm going to say, because the amygdala, and by the way, for anybody there listening, if you are, and I'm going to say, spending a lot of time thinking about someone, is going to be in your amygdala, where the amygdala is the animal mind, the stupid part of the brain, which means you're not being very wise. Let's just put it that way, right?
There's the dumbass part.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I call it something else, but I don't know if I can use that language.
It's our dumbass part of the brain, the smartass and the dumbass, as we talk about, And, so I have a question for you, because I want to talk about intimacy, and I want to talk about sex in the age of Aquarius, because this is going to air during Pisces season. And we all know that Pisces are the lovers out there, the lover boys and the lover girls. And I would say that during this era of like fluidity and awakening, how is sex evolving spiritually? Because there's a big range of conversation from transactional sex to conquest to energetic exchange, to what is connection, what's erotic intelligence.
I would love this question to be asked for women of multiple generations, right? So,
Yeah.
yes, definitely for me, the one that stand out the most is transactional. And I have spoken with so many men where they said that women are losing their authority and they're losing their power just by thinking that they can choose. And that doesn't mean that they're being empowered. There's every time they do that, it's like something is taken away from them that is not even talked about or seen. Yes, they're making decisions or we're making decisions. I personally prefer to be pursued by a man, right? And again, I'm old fashioned. This is why I said the question will be different. Um, and I have a lot of great deal of respect for my body. Now, once I'm in, baby. There's no rules, but but before that, um, I believe that the sex is one of the things. Also, there is being even though there's more freedom than so many years ago, than 40, 50, 60, 70s. The other thing that is happening is because of that, a lot of people are choosing not to have sex. And that's are the things. So again, we're going into different extremes. Anytime there is no balance, look at the stock market, right? And the mean, when the market goes up, it goes down and it landing. So this is exactly what is happening to all this masculine, feminine sex. It's just imagine the stock market is going like this, right? Like up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. It's crushing in them everywhere. It's not in a balanced way, right? Again, we play a role even if we are not playing the game because I guess sexuality, more expressed sexuality, is more to in a higher degree to younger individuals. I am one of the older individuals. Doesn't mean that I'm off the market. It just means that um, it has a different wisdom for me, right? For me, sex is very spiritual, and for me, sex has to be meaningful, and it has to, if I choose my partners very carefully, right?
Yeah.
But that's not what everybody's happening to everybody, and it's definitely a transactional marriages, partnerships. That's going to be it's going to be a transactional way, and it doesn't mean that necessarily it's negative because it could be something meaningful and something powerful.
Right.
But it takes more than that, right? It takes, to see what is beyond that's just that word.
Yes. I think the acknowledgement of the fluidity, just of what a relationship can even look like. I feel like that's the big difference in 2026 is that we're kind of out there and upfront about there's a range of possibilities. Whereas Gen Xer, there were really possibilities that you were partnered with a man or you were partnered with a woman. But the presumption was you were partnered, right? With somebody. And I just think that the range, again, leading us into our own authenticity, and a lot of times people think that fluidity equals chaos. And I actually would like to invite listeners that fluidity might actually allow some deeper authenticity. Right?
Yep.
And I think that just like some people can talk about neutrality and numbness is very, very different, right? How you can be spiritually in a neutral place. I think that it's really important to make the distinction that spiritual fluidity and emotional confusion are two completely different things. And when we're talking about, sex and you're talking about fluidity and you're talking about emotions, I think that the more we're in touch with authentically who we are,
Bravo.
right? The level of confusion just diminishes to a point where you're like, no, I'm just articulating and actually expressing and individuating, myself.
I said I'm gonna state this, and then I'm gonna go back to what you're saying. I said in a relationship, in a consent relationship, sexual relationship, everything is allowed as long as they both agree,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Everybody likes different things, and we're talking about the sex, but using that into individually, individual sexuality. The truth
Mhm.
is that fear, confusion, chaos, those are great things, because anytime that there's something like that, there's chaos in our mind, there's confusion in our mind, or there is any movement in our emotions, all that means that we have a great opportunity to become more authentic. If
Yeah.
we overcome that, if we actually really reflect and process that emotion, or we can choose just to be, continue to be confused or continue to be in
Sure.
chaos. And
Sure.
I tell people when I work with people that complains about other people, and I said, okay, let's say that John is complaining about Tracy, and I said, look, John, Tracy is also a symbol of crazy. And pardon me for the Tracy. I love Tracy's kisses for them, but it's just a conversation that I have with John that doesn't exist. Okay, so but if you think I can help you with Tracy, I can help you to get rid of the crazy. That's no problem for me. The problem is that I will not help you to get rid of what is in your mind, creating Tracy to come and create a crazy world for you. So I will disappear, Tracy, and there's going to be another lady by the name of
Sure.
Susan, 3 times the degree of crazy. So what we see, again, is the intimacy. When we refuse to have intimacy with those individuals who challenge us and the inability to see what is in there is also hurting us to express ourselves. And we do have a sexual intelligence as well. Sex defines also who we are. And that is because it's very physical, it's in our body. And all those individuals, if you think about this, when you see a man or a woman that are very shy and very uncomfortable, if you think about sexually about them, the identity, you also see that. So part of owning our sexuality is having that identity, that comfort. And sex is such a controversial thing. But I want everybody to think about this. If your parents, every single person, if your mom and your dad did not have sex, you would not be here. So you came here from sex,
Yep.
right? As simple as that. So
Yep.
if it's such a normal thing, why we make such a big things about that?
Mhm.
Sexuality
Mhm.
is your birthright, is your expression right. It's simply your right. And it shows, and it's part of our identity as who we are. And yes, anything that we repress is going to express.
Yes. Yes.
That's another podcast. Sexuality is being expressed and in many forms, and one of those could be probably pornography, and another one could be really getting into work and doing amazing things. If there's no partner and you just don't wanna go that route, or just having a partner that it's like a rabbit and is willing to willing to adapt to the situation, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
I mean,
definitely. Mhm.
it, it's just, to me, this story is so fascinating and just evolving at such a quick, rapid pace. Like, we are literally sitting here recording the day after Chinese New Year. There was the annular partial solar eclipse that happened in Aquarius during the new moon. We have a Saturn Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees in Aries, which hasn't happened since 4300 BC.
Exactly.
Like, we are in some big shift right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very interesting because it feels like the real age of Aquarius shift is not necessarily about rebellion. It's really about authenticity.
Authenticity.
It's
Mm-hmm.
about nervous systems that feel safe enough to express themselves as they truly are, and bodies that feel safe to be expressed, like hearts that feel like they can be seen. And I think that if anything, Aquarians are not on script,
Nope.
right?
It
They're
it
completely off script. And I
absolutely.
and
Is
I
it
feel like that's where
you
we've never been here before.
exactly. You know what I love about Aquarius? They fight their freedom, their independence, right?
Yeah.
But they actually, for the most part, don't create those attachments. They are anyone, any individual, any artist that you see weird looking or weird, I'm not going to say names, but everybody's thinking about somebody is probably going to be the Aquarius. So I want to invite everybody here, your audience, Michelle, to be in touch with the weirdo, wherever we all have a weirdo, right, inside of
Oh,
us,
yeah.
and let it out and just express. And that could be a very sexual expression. And by that doesn't mean having sex, but that means is owning your skin, your body, being in touch
Yes.
with that part of you, right? And
Mhm.
sometimes it's just the hair, crazy hair. It could be the makeup. It could be that item, that piece of clothes that you want to wear, but it's scary because it looks weird though. Be a an authentic weirdo, right?
Yeah.
Let
Be
the
your own
weirdo
weirdo.
out because we all have on that. And I promise you, when I start letting my weirdo out, you know what I found? I found out that I created a magnet for all of those who have a similar wordle to want to talk to me and tell me, I've been
Oh,
repressing this. Thank you for expressing and helping me with my own wordle. Of course, they said that in their own words. But by becoming authentic, all you do is giving also other individuals permission to be authentic.
that's right. What feels weird now in a few weeks can feel completely authentically you. It's like when we're teenagers, we try on different behaviors, different habits, different hairstyles, different outfits. Like we try it on. And then somehow we're adults and we think that we shouldn't. And I just really want to invite people in this, kind of lover boy, lover girl season of Pisces to really feel like as Pluto continues to move deeper into Aquarius, that you can let your heart and light express like your true inner authenticity, where you're intimately being you. To me, I feel like authentic intimacy in the age of Aquarius, the biggest shift will be that for the first time we're showing up, no
Mhm.
matter how old or young we are, as our true selves. And that to me is honestly like what I think we all signed up for, those volunteers that came to Earth School for this now.
Mm, when an artist create a piece of art, some other individuals can make copies and call it replicas. In my dining table, I went when I was decorating it. I went to this store where they cut oak trees and forgive me for anyone who love trees, but they have a purpose. And out of that, they made a beautiful table that is in my dining room. And it's so perfect because three oak trees got together and they created the table that is there. And that table will be so special for so many, it's a Trinity
Oh,
table for many, many years. But I did have the option to go to the furniture store and buy one table, one piece, or that breaks in 2 or 3 pieces, and it was going to be more what people would call perfect. The reality is that nobody can actually make an exact replica of an original. And that's who we are. We're going to have to choose. And guess what? The original will be more valuable and more expensive. A copy will never have the same price than the original. So when we become the original with all those what people call imperfections, that in reality is that our perfect self. And you know how most individuals have an eye bigger than the other one, an ear bigger than the other one, a breast bigger than the other one, butt cheek bigger than the other one, a leg, our knee. And that's why we're perfect and unique and authentic. And yes, there can be many replicas of ourselves, but if we try to be the replica of someone else, we are devaluing who we are and the body that we were given to be here and express.
Yes.
So I'm just going to invite, bring your whatever makes you special. If it's a word, if it's your voice, if it's your hair, if it's your eyes, every single human. I might dedicate my life to see even men, right? When I go to restaurants and airports and everything, I look at men, I say, what is special about this man? And it takes me 2 seconds to find it. Every single human has something special. And it's so valuable and it's so authentic. Why want to copy somebody else when we lose our value if we do?
That's right. That's right. We can only be us. Everybody else is taken.
Absolutely.
Right? That's it. So, yes. Oh, Elena, thank you for joining us today. If our listeners want to reach you, what is the best way for us to connect with you?
They can go to the website intimateconversationswithmen.com. And there's a phone number and email. They can reach out by email and phone. And if they want to be my guest, I invite anyone who has something beautiful to say. I am in the business of, promoting love. That's what I
Yes.
want to say.
Oh my goodness, that's so beautiful. Well, this is Heart and Light Living, where we clear what dims us so we can live brighter. And if this conversation moved you at all, please feel free to share it because someone else might be ready to stop performing and start expressing. Remember, come home to your light. Thank y'all so much for listening. Peace be with you.